Hi, welcome back, friends, for our conversation around the dirty F word. I am really always happy to be talking about growth and talking about learning. And the dirty F word, as I've shared many times, is something that I used to be so afraid to say. But failure is just a part of life, and the key is learning from our failures. And so we're going to learn from an amazing woman today. Her name is Angela Moriarty, and she's going to turn her camera on for us, and we're going to meet her because she is Vice President of HR for Advanced Correctional Healthcare outside Peoria, Illinois. And Angela, I'm so grateful for your time, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I want people to understand just a little bit about who you are and your passion and your zest for life.
Sure. I have been in the HR industry for over 10 years, working at the same organization for pushing 15 years. So this was kind of a temporary job that turned into my career. Through that time, got married. I had 3 boys and ended up pursuing my bachelor's in psychology, my master's in general management, and recently, I guess not so recently now, but years ago, received my PhD in business management with a focus on human resources. I specialize in employee issues, leadership coaching, and just helping people succeed in the workplace.
I love it, but it's not always easy to help people succeed in the workplace. So I bet you've seen, both personal and professional, you've had experience with the dirty F word before, true or false?
Absolutely.
And what's your take on failure? Just your personal opinion about it.
My personal opinion on failure is there's 2 different types. So we have failures that we do as an individual, as an employee. We fail, we screw up, we are humans, and we have to recognize that we're not meant to be perfect. But on the other side of it, when we start advancing into leadership roles or trying to take on those leadership roles, we have new expectations that are put on us to help other people not fail as well. So there are other failures that come along with that side of management as well.
Trying to help other people not fail. It's hard enough just to help myself not fail sometimes. But having that feeling of responsibility for others is a great opportunity, but it certainly is a great responsibility too.
Absolutely, it is, because when you ask someone to leave an organization that they are currently at to come and fulfill a role that you now have that responsibility on your shoulders. You need to have done your due diligence on bringing them in to make sure they're not only going to make you happy, but you can make them happy as well, so that they don't fail and now have to be stuck looking for another job.
So let's talk about professional failures. You sort of have 3 key areas that you say that cause people professional failures. Talk to us about those.
I have learned from our founder of our organization that there are 3 reasons that we believe people do not succeed in the organization. Number 1 is because that I, as the supervisor, did not give you the tools you need to do your job. That can be, I didn't give you a computer. I didn't give you the paper to print things on. But it can also be, I didn't provide you the training or the conference attendance that you needed in order to keep up with the industry. Now, the second reason people do not perform is because I, as a supervisor, hired the wrong person into the job. Now, that has become even more difficult to do these days because of the focus on culture fit. We like people that we're bringing in. And when I place somebody who, let's say I hire somebody who is very outgoing and a really great communicator, and I put them in a job that they sit and type up contracts all day long. They're down the hall alone. They're not going to be happy in that role because that extroverted nature of them is not going to be fulfilled. So once again, that is a failure on my part. The third reason is just that you've hired somebody who's lazy or a felon, and being in the correctional industry, once in a while that happens. But most of the time, the reason that an employee doesn't work out is because that I, as a supervisor, didn't give you the tools to do your job, or I, as a supervisor, put the wrong person in the job. And so I have to take ownership over that.
Let's talk about that and help people, as so many people, so many viewers have the responsibility of hiring. And you said such a key thing. You put an outgoing person in a role where they didn't talk to people, whether it's data entry or whatever that would be. How do we see that in advance? Sometimes it's not always easy for people hiring to be able to see those things in advance.
We like to be very positive in the interview process to sell people the job. The market has definitely shifted from, I am an organization, this is what I have for you to fill, you can take it or leave it. that has shifted. Now, employees don't have to stay at an organization. Sometimes they just quit and don't even have a job to go to. So it is the burden on the employer to say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want your future to look like? Here's what I need from you in tasks, but let me help you get where you want to go. And just trying to be as open in the interview process so that we keep that communication from the start saying, I will help you get there, but this is what you're going to have to do in open communication. Now, some ways you can do that is pre-employment testing. You can do that with just the job description list. It's a bit of scaring people with the job, even though that's a very negative way of putting it. But just trying to give them the most realistic preview, even if it's a job shadow, to let them know what it's like to work with you.
You know, it's always exciting to start a new opportunity, but there's a lot of fear involved too, and they're probably afraid to fail. But you're in an interesting situation because as an HR expert, you know, you're kind of in control. But what I'm really interested in hearing is your own personal failure or your own personal experience with that dirty F word. Tell us about that story.
Oh gosh, we are all our own biggest critic, I think. And when you're trying to do a really good job, I think one of the ways people come in is teach me everything. And that's the way I was. When I started in the HR department, I want to learn. Tell me your ways so that I can do it the right way and do it the right way every time. My story, my biggest failure and revelation moment came when it had to do with FMLA. Now, it could have been any task, but mine just happened to be FMLA that day.
And just so people know, FMLA is a federal leave opportunity. Someone
yes.
has an illness in their family or themselves, and they are allowed and protected by the federal government to take some time off.
Yes, it's a protected leave after a period of time, and they can receive up to 12 weeks of leave. So our practice, like many other companies, is you receive your 12 weeks of leave, and then if you are unable to come back, we need to fill that position. That is not mandated, but the 12 weeks is. So after that 12 weeks, I was notified that somebody had reached the end and I needed to call and separate them from employment. I wasn't crazy about it. I knew the situation that was involved, but that's the rule. So I called the employee. I separated them from employment. There were tears. It was a very difficult moment for me. I hung up the phone having done my job, and I walked straight into the CEO's office, our founder's office. And I sat down and I said, I cannot believe I just did this. And he said, what happened? And I said, well, I did what I was told to do. You know, that's what this all comes down to. I did what I was told to do. I called somebody, I let them go, but I shouldn't have done it. Why shouldn't you have done it? Well, here are my reasons. It's a good employee. Here are all the other reasons why. And he said, then why did you do it? Now, I consider that a failure on my part. At any point in this situation, I could have come to him first, and I didn't. That is a failure on my part. Because I went to him at that point, he said, go make it right. I went back, I called the employee, I apologized up and down, but they still had to go through that emotional roller coaster with me. You know, a couple hours, they lost their job, and now HR is giving them their job back. That's probably not a really great feeling for someone. So I took that as a huge failure, but also a lesson learned to myself. That just because we've been doing it this way doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way. It's a bit of a gut check. Necessarily that they had emotional pull, but from something's not right here. So recheck your facts, look at the situation, see how it may differ from the way that it's always been done, and then see what the wiggle room is there to do the right thing the first time.
Oh, doing the right thing the first time. Doing the right thing the first time isn't always easy. And again, sometimes, you know, we talk about the failures in our lives, and I don't know anyone who wants to fail, but boy, what an extraordinary lesson you had, and what a wonderfully supportive CEO you had.
Absolutely.
That you were given the opportunity to make it right. You followed your gut. You were trying to be the professional that you are with all of the education that you have. I mean, and we have rules and regulations on purpose to try and be consistent and fair to all employees. But sometimes, you know, it's okay to break the rules, or it's okay to
change the rules.
Right. Change the rules, because everyone is an individual and every circumstance is a little bit different, don't you think?
I completely agree with that. And we need to be able to be treated as such. There's definitely a guideline. You have to have a path that you follow so that you know you're taking the right way and reaching the correct goal. But on that path, you have to be able to go into the gray as you need to. You have to be able to see this is an individual. This is a specific case that is not like any other, because I know if I have an issue at work, I want to be treated like an individual as well. I don't want somebody looking at the words on a paper and treating me that way. So we should treat other people that way as well.
You know, it so goes back to what we learned when we were little kids. Our parents probably taught us in kindergarten, treat people the way we want to be treated.
Yes.
But it's easier said than done sometimes. And you never know until you fail sometimes. What kind of advice would you have to help people kind of bond with the dirty F word? Because so many people are so afraid of it.
Well, we have so many different generations in the workforce. And so it's about once you enter that group or wherever you're at right now, who's your trusted inner circle? Who are those people that you can bond with and talk to? And I don't mean just venting to individuals. We all have those people that we can go to, you know, when something's more tough and we have to work through it. But you want those individuals to help elevate you as well, to improve the situation that you're at, to kind of recheck, acknowledge your feelings, and then let's get a plan. So as you enter a new organization, I would be looking for those people. Who can I talk to? Who will I create as my own mentors? If this organization is not providing me mentors themselves formally, I can do that for myself. Because in that moment, when I step out, I immediately want, you know, pull the ripcord. Who do I go to? Who do I go to right now in this moment to say, I don't know if I did something wrong, but I need help possibly. And once you have that established, it's so much easier to, rather than ask for help, go to your consultants, go to your trusted people who are going to really help you avoid that massive failure.
And those are the things. So let's go there for a second. Let's talk about the massive failures.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people think their life is over. And truly, unless we've taken our last breath, life isn't over. And we can't recover even from a massive failure. What kind of advice,
Mm-hmm.
because you have so much HR experience, would you share with folks?
So we have some very severe things that occur in our organization. We are in corrections. So the most dramatic ones that occur will be a nurse in a medical unit in a jail who just so happens to take the inhaler home for her child. That's theft. When that type of stuff happens, we want to always find out what happened as far as the reason behind the behavior. That allows us to see if this was, oh, she wanted or he wanted to sell this. You know, they're dealing on this side. They're truly doing this for malicious purposes. Or is this person struggling? Is there something more that we can do to help them? What are their motives? Once we know the motives behind the behavior, the reason behind the behavior, we can develop customized plans for helping people. There's a lot of people in the corrections industry or any industry that once you know the motivation behind their behaviors, you can help change that. But if you don't set up a foundation of communication and trust from the start, it's a lot harder to get after the failure, after this massive failure, because assumptions will be made and people will stop listening.
I mean, that's just such good advice, because you don't want to lose people. You don't want them to stop listening, and you don't want to. But I guess a part of that is that people, you mentioned communication, and people have to be willing and can maybe put their pride aside sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're struggling and they had financial challenges and they need something to help their children. That's when you just got to go to your supervisor and you've got to be honest and transparent. But I don't know that transparency comes easy for everyone.
And it's hard. Again, having different individuals in the organization who have worked different places, not every organization is open and transparent with communication. I have not had coworkers all the time that are the easiest to work with. I have had coworkers scream at me from across the building, but I have grown enough of a trusted inner circle to have the confidence to say, we need to stop this behavior. I will speak to you with my supervisor present. You got to get that confidence in yourself to know you're doing the best you can. And whether or not I do something critically wrong, let's say I go in and am doing something in benefits and delete everything out of the benefit system for over 1,000 people, that's a pretty big mistake. my supervisor and I say, oh my gosh, I just did this, I'm not going to stop until I fix it. Okay, that makes the supervisor's job a lot easier to say, thank you. What can we do to help? Rather than say, oh, I just did this, can you fix it? So as long as people are willing to accept accountability for their errors and speak up before it gets worse, it's so much easier for everyone to help fix it.
Oh, but now you've just got us to such an important part, accountability for our failures, accountability for the dirty F word in each of our lives. What have you seen as the best and the worst way of handling those things?
The best way of handling accountability is addressing it head on. So I made this big error, I'd like to move forward from it, and then stop talking about it. Because what I find is some individuals get so bent out of shape over the error that they made that they can't stop talking about it. We've already made a plan. We've already decided to move forward. And now you're only damaging your own reputation by continuing to tell everyone about it, about how you did this massive screw up. And it's just for entertainment purposes for these other individuals. So let us help you address it and move forward. I think that is
letting
challenging.
It go. What
Yes.
tips, so let's pause there for a second. Tips to help people let it go. Because there's twofold, I would see it as. Some people just feel so bad, they're beating themselves up more than their supervisor ever could.
Yes. And there are some people, we do a lot of personality testing where I work. So it's a free online thing that we use. And so we categorize individuals and say, okay, you have more of a tendency to do this. There is one category that does have a tendency to beat themselves up. So we will call that out. You made this mistake, you brought it to my attention. I don't have a lot more to say to you because I know you're going to probably be beating yourself up a lot over this than I ever would. So let's move forward from here. And how can I help you move forward? I don't need to spend half an hour telling you how you screwed up in all the different ways. If you already brought it to me and you're already trying to make it right, it really cuts that back.
And then the alternative is the person who doesn't really want to own it. And it could be the supervisor's fault because you didn't give me enough time to work on that. And I accidentally deleted it because I was in a hurry.
Yes, the blame game is very difficult to overcome because rather than, let's say somebody can't get to work on time. Every day it's something different. My dog ran away, I was sick, my car didn't start. It's always something different. When you address that behavior and say your attendance is not good, well, you were late the other day too, supervisor. Oh, funny, you didn't show up on Tuesday, or I called you 3 times and you never answer your phone. We have to stop the behavior of the tit for tat. We have to stop the argument. And in this moment, we're addressing a value, a behavior, an expectation of accountability. We agree that you show up to work on this time. Can we agree you didn't show up to work on this time? Well, yes, I didn't show up to work on this time. Okay. So I need you to show up to work on time. Or if that doesn't work for you, do we need to adjust your start time? If that's within reason. We've had some individuals who are consistently 15, 16 minutes late. And finally, when we find out, again, what is that behavior behind the issue? Well, they're dropping their dog at doggy daycare, or their child off somewhere, or they're just, I'm not a morning person. Let's shift your start time. Get the same goal accomplished, but make it easier for you to accomplish and meet those goals.
And reduce their impact by the dirty F word.
Yes, focus on the issue and not that argument back and forth.
Such huge advice. Oh, it's so great to talk to an HR person sometimes. I wish you lived next door to me. I want to help people understand a little bit though. Aren't you the largest correctional healthcare facility across, is it 15 states?
We are in 15 states. So we're the largest that focuses on jails. So we are not a prison-oriented company. There's a lot of large prison companies, but we are the largest jail-focused correctional healthcare company, yes. In 15 states, over 300 clients.
How many employees?
Pushing 1,000 employees.
So you've had a lot of experience, not only with your own dirty F word, but with the dirty F word that impacts so many other people. And you've heard it all. The dog ate your homework included.
Oh, yes, we have. But what that just keeps reinforcing is we want people to continue working. We want to provide a stable environment for them. And so if there are other factors impacting their ability to show up to work, what we can do is try our best to make it a stable work environment for them while they get everything else figured out, organized, and under control. Because we don't want to have to recruit for them again. We don't want to have to retrain someone again. I would love for everyone to come here and be here forever.
But that's just important too, because a lot of employees think the leadership is out to get them and just wants to
Yes,
fire everyone and replace them with the next person that comes along. But that's not,
that
just
is
costs so
hard.
much more money to replace people.
So much more. And the wave of the organization or community has really been changed. So human resources departments really do fight on behalf of employees. People are scared. When I call them, I always have to leave a reason for calling, because if HR is calling, that means I'm going to fire them. Most often I'm gathering information in order to protect them. Most often I'm saying, okay, what happened here? How can I help you move forward? But HR definitely gets a bad rap, but we know that going into it. So we just do the best that we can to try to overcome that.
I love it. So before we wrap up, I just want to give you a chance to kind of wrap up and kind of run down those bullet points of lessons and takeaways from the dirty F word of what you've learned over your career.
What I've learned over my career is to communicate early. So find your trusted inner circle, communicate early, and speak up when you think that you should go another way. So what I mean is, just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean it always has to be done that way, but it also doesn't mean you have to change everything. So let's take things a step at a time, treat people like individuals, following the path that has been set up before us, and not be afraid to fail. We're a human. There's no need to put that stress on our shoulders to say, I'm going to show up to work every day and be perfect every day, because that's just not going to be the case.
It's not realistic.
It's not.
Not in the world, not unless we live, in a utopia somewhere that none of us know exists. That's just in our minds or on television shows. But it's been such a great conversation, Angela Moriarty, Vice President of HR for Advanced Correctional Healthcare. You helped us so much today, and I'm so very grateful that you would share your information and your time with us, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, well, that does it for this episode of the Dirty F Word. But you know what? We've got so much more to learn from our failures, and I don't want you to miss a single episode of the Dirty F Word. Take care. We'll see you soon, my friends.